Hi friends, in COM 707, welcome to my final presentation entitled Media Ecology, an epistemological paradigm shift, a brief look at Walter Ong and Neil Postman. So of the many fascinating topics we've discussed this semester, one particularly stands out amongst the rest, and that is the epistemological shift that transpires due to the development of new technologies. So we see that in media ecology scholarship, this dialectical approach that explores the differences between modes of communication. So while Walter Ong looks at orality versus literacy, and Neil Postman's Amusing Ourselves to Death looks at the shift from typographic culture to a more electronic visual-based culture, they may seem quite different at first glance, primarily based on the topics that these scholars chose to discuss and explore. However, if we look past the particular mediums, we see that both scholars had a common belief regarding the effects of communication mediums on epistemology. So that's what I would like to discuss with you in this presentation. So we know that epistemology deals with the nature of knowledge and how we as humans come to recognize truth or reality. So both Walter Ong and Neil Postman proposes that developments in communication mediums have created a paradigm shift in epistemology, with Ong arguing that written language has shaped what we perceive as truth due to the structural nature of the medium. And Postman arguing that epistemology is really contingent on the media or the predominant modes of communication. Postman stated that there's an intimate link between epistemology and the modes of communication that are predominant within culture. So this leads to the medium's sensory bias. And so we see that Walter Ong highlights the cognitive shift between primary oral cultures and cryographic cultures, in which the visual and structural format of written language gives rise to abstract thinking that really transcends spatial and temporal limitations of oral communication. So while the benefits of this shift from orality to literacy outweigh the cost, such as a decrease in our ability to keep things in our memory, written language created a medium that allowed people to separate essentially knowledge from the knower. So it really created this objectivity by separating our human senses away from our physical environment. So to be able to write, as Ong would say, is a very solitary activity. Whereas, primary oral cultures, their orality is really contingent on their surrounding environment. So we see that the separation between, the separation between the knower and knowledge that developed through the development of written language was a significant benefit, and it outweighed the cost, that decrease in memory. And it gave rise to, our ability to reason and engage in higher order thinking. Postman highlights the sensory shift between the typographic culture to an electric culture, in which new media or electric modes of communication take on a new form of visual communication. And so while Ong does argue that the visual or written language is predominantly visual, that is the primary sense that it is targeting. Now, with Postman, he would argue that, even though new electronic mediums are visual in nature, they are disembodied multisensory technologies, that they tap into not only the visual but the auditory as well. And they're disembodied in the sense that they're disconnected from a physical environment, and so there is no context. And so we just immerse ourselves into this created environment, and specifically that environment favors the incoherent, disembodied, and decontextualized visual modes of communication that really present this artificial creation of reality as a spectacle in which public discourse surrounding important issues becomes entertainment for us. So the common denominator that we see among Ong and Postman isn't necessarily their discussion on a particular type of medium, but really it's focused on this concept of the sensorium. Now, the sensorium refers to the entire sensory apparatus of the body that receive, process, and interpret sensory stimuli from our external environment. And changes in our media environment, such as electric modes of communication. This could include the telegraph, as Postman points out, the radio, telephone. Even Ong talked about computers. Essentially, these technologies gives rise to disembodied simultaneity forms of communication, which, according to Eric McLuhan in a presentation given at St. Thomas More's College in Canada in 2017, would argue that because technology gives us the ability to be in two places simultaneously, that really places the new media and media ecology and mediated forms of communication in the realm of metaphysics. And because there is this disembodied simultaneity, this is what I think Postman is getting at when he is arguing that technology will be our demise, referring to Huxley's dystopian view of the world, in which we just surrender our intellect, our behavior, our control over our own lives to technology. Thank you so much for listening.